me 20 seconds left, so really rest. Keep pedaling though. Keep pedaling, keep breathing. Nice and easy, get ready for the next. Maximum effort. Maximum leg speed. Go! 10 seconds. Who's got the fastest leg? Keep it fast, keep the leg fast. Faster than that, go!
Cycling's been part of my life, really. The things I've done, the places I've been. And I probably started when I was about 10, and I'm now 79, so that's 69 years of cycling. At one time I held all the club records for the Herne Hill Bicycle Club, which I belong to. I reckon, roughly speaking, I've cycled about 400,000 miles in my life.
There's this photograph my dad took of me at this very kind of jaunty angle, the angle that people take of new cars, and then when they're trying to show them off at their best. It's just like a slight angle with the front wheel rather jauntily kind of twisted to the right, and me looking really proud. And that was my first bike, and I suppose I was about 4.
3, 2, 1, go.
I started in summer of last year. This was my first winter and I was quite unprepared, like I didn't have arm warmers or leg warmers, but I started after the Olympics, because that really inspired me. It was Bradley Wiggins' time trial, and I was just like, right, if he wins, then I'm going on Herne Hill website and I'm going to do some sessions. I don't know what it is about cycling, but it seems like so enjoyable and rewarding. You feel great when you know that you've got faster.
This is the first time I've been in a velodrome. I absolutely love it. It's amazing. I could just go round and round all day. It's brilliant. It's freedom to me. My bike is freedom. It means I can get where I want to get. It's fantastic if I've had a really tough day to just go out and have a little spin because it clears my head and it always makes me feel better. No matter how bad a day I've had, if I go out on the bike, I feel brilliant. I love it. Even if it's raining, I still go out. If it's snowing, I just love cycling. I make costumes for theatre and film and for museums. I worked on quite a few projects where we've been making early cycling costumes, and I love working with sport and fashion. I just think it's really interesting, especially women's fashion, because the whole history of women's emancipation really, for me, links through sport, and clothing was more of a barrier, whereas sport was more of a facilitator. So I think it's really interesting contrast.
I made this bike myself, got all the bits together and chose them all individually. So it's nice to know that I built it, and if it goes wrong, I can fix it. So I bought the frame on eBay and it was untreated. It just came out of the back of the factory. I think it might be a little bit dodgy. It came out the back of the factory, it hadn't been painted. So I spent about a week polishing it up to get this chrome look on it, and then chose all the parts. Well, some of the parts came off that bike, but other things like the forks I chose. And these brakes, I love these brakes. Got the stickers on eBay to make it look nice. Got my name put on it, which is a bit poncy, but hey, like I'm somebody important, but looks nice. This is my Sunday ride bike, my racing bike.
Well, what do you use this for?
Well, that one's my mountain bike, so I used to use that for cyclocross, but now I use it for mountain biking. That last went out when it was snowing, so it's a nice mountain bike. That's my son's mountain bike, which he uses for mountain biking. He went to Wales on that before Christmas. That's my cross bike, which actually belongs to the club, but I do cyclocross racing on that. That's my son's cross bike, which also belongs to the club. This is my town fixed wheel bike. So it's like a track bike, but it's got brakes on it. So I can't ride my track bike around town. It's too nice. It hasn't got any brakes. This is so you can ride fixed wheel around town. So it's good for training. This is an antique Gillett that was built, I think, in 1969. Gillett was the bike to have in the 60s and 70s. And my mate's dad, one of my mate's dads, used to be a bike racer, and this was his. And when he couldn't ride anymore, he gave it to me, which is nice. So that I'd take if I was going to go somewhere where it would impress people, like a vintage bike fair. This is a folding bike that I built up just because I wanted a Brompton, but I couldn't afford one. So I've got a cheap old Rally 20 with fast BMX wheels. So if ever I'm going on a train, I need to take a bike on a train. This is my daughter's Isla bike, which is a lovely little bike which she usually uses most when we go camping. And this is my Hurricane recumbent, which is what I did the Paris-Brest-Paris on, which I don't ride anymore, simply because it takes a long time to get out of the shed and it makes you look like a beardy weirdy. But I love it, and that's what I did the Paris-Brest-Paris on, although I think the brakes don't work anymore. I need to fix the brakes because they're disc brakes. So yeah, I do use them all, but this is the one I use the most.
Well, we've done over 2 miles now.
When I was about 9 or 10, we had this very exotic French student staying with us, this guy who lived in Paris, and he said, just before he left, he said, I'm going to send you my racing bike, you can have it. I thought, oh yeah, right. I didn't really believe him. And then a few weeks later, we'd got a phone call, and I went with my dad up to Bricklayers Arms, which is like the freight depot, and we picked up this parcel that had been delivered from Paris, and there's this beautiful light green Rocher boys racing bike with derailleur gears. It was the first time I'd ever seen derailleur gears. It had butterfly wing nuts on the wheels, which were like a precursor to quick release, and it had white tyres. It was really fantastic. That was my first real bike.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more.
God, what made me do it? It's a good question. So I love cycling on the track, and it's the most famous race to race at Herne Hill. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it here. What's your ambition this race? Oh, to finish, to not fall off, to do as well as I can, really, and I want to come off feeling like I've given it everything, and if I didn't win or come on the podium or whatever, it's not through want of trying. I remember the first time I rode, I remember my induction being terrified of not being able to have brakes or gears or be able to stop pedalling. But yeah, it was only 1.5 years ago, I think. A year and a bit ago, yeah. Slippery slope. It's obsessive.
Known him for years. We used to race together a long time ago. He's carried on racing and I've stopped.
I've been racing every year since 1970 without missing a season. I enjoy it, I love it. It's my life.
My mother used to race, and I believe that I know she was 3 months pregnant, and I've got pictures of her racing, and she was 3 months pregnant with me. So I'm born to it, you know.
Graham, he do a lot of work, a lot of hard work. He do it because he love organising it to let me race properly like.
They needed a new organiser because the guy that was doing it decided he had enough. And I thought, no, it's too much work, so I thought, no, I'm going to do it. So I went to the committee meeting and they said, well, if you haven't got an organiser, then we'll abandon the meeting. I thought, I'll do it. because it just seemed it seemed a shame to lose the meeting for the sake of someone doing it. I thought I'd do it for 5 years, and that was in 1978. So I've been organising ever since. You know, and I do enjoy it, of course I do. This meeting was first held in 1903. We actually predate the Tour de France. That started in 1903 as well, but we were the Easter and they were in the summer.
Loads of different people come and go, race down here. Bradley Wiggins' dad, Bradley Wiggins, Tony Doyle. So many people. Huey Porter, Red Joris. I was lucky enough to race with Red Joris down here when he won the national championship when he was age 52. Like, you know, it's been really fantastic, like, to race down here.
I really like cycling in 40s clothes, especially on this bike. I find people always do a double take, like they've accidentally stepped back in time because it all just suddenly seems to go together. People certainly stop me and ask me a lot about the bike and whether it's original 1940s or whether it's new. But every year when I do heritage festivals in Peterborough, I cycle around on my bike in my 40s clothes, and it just seems like more of a whole story then when you've got the costume and the bicycle together. But yeah, I love it. I learned to cycle, I suppose, when I was about 6 or 7 I started, but it took me quite a long time, maybe because I'm a bit dyslexic and dyspraxic. I was quite clumsy, so I had a long time of cycling into things rather than round them, and I learned to cycle on a bike that everyone in my family had learnt to ride on since the 1950s, so the same bike that my mum learnt to ride on, and my cousins and my uncles. And I was quite determined to learn to cycle, even though I was finding it really hard. And I think I must have been about 10 or 11 before I really got the hang of it. But I was determined to do it, and I was thrilled when I could actually have the stabilisers off and go out and cycle without crashing into things every other day.
My bike is my independence. I suppose it's just the achievement of being equal with like everyone else, and it's just having that sense of freedom again. You just want to be independent, just be your own boss and be in control of your own life as able as you can. Going round and round and round wasn't doing anything for me. Yeah, it was great. I was toning, I was getting exercise and meeting the group, which, you know, they're so warm and kind and helpful and supportive. But I knew that I needed more of a challenge and I needed to get out there.
I had this wonderful bike, I've still got it around the side, the Filibus, which is this German purpose-built child carrying bike. And it has a seat on the front where you can see Lottie sitting on the front. And then later on I had a trailer bike that went on the back. So Fred's on the back. Again, maybe why he's so fast, because I used to be like, pedal! I could tell when he's not pedaling because you'd hear it. And we used to have these wonderful, that bike has made some of the best days of my life, because we used to go up to, well, here we've gone up to where? That's Prince Charles's house, isn't it? But we used to have these fantastic days on that bike, because I'd take them up to the Natural History Museum, and then yeah, it was brilliant. And then we go to the Princess Diana Memorial Park. Terrific bike. I think if I had to say my favourite bike of all time, it has to be the Filibus, because, you know, I love racing and I love all that, but the days I had with the kids on that, wow, brilliant.
We're doing almost 7 miles an hour now, you know.
You've gone up a lot then.
You are doing well. We think the weight you're pushing is colossal. Somebody told me about Wheels for Wellbeing. Who told me? I've no idea, but somebody mentioned it to me. Once I'd been discharged from hospital with my illness, which was semi-paralysis, like paraplegic, I didn't think I had my sense of balance. I think I'd lost it because I couldn't walk at all well, but I could ride a tricycle with Wheels for Wellbeing, which all I had to do was sit on it and pedal it and steer it and brake it. I did that for a couple of months or more, and then my one overwhelming urge was to see, can I ride on 2 wheels again? And I didn't think I'd be able to, but eventually I persuaded the instructors to give me a try on a bicycle, and they put me on a women's bicycle, which normally I wouldn't have been seen dead on a women's bicycle, but with straight handlebars. But anyway, I got onto this women's bicycle. I had an instructor each side of me, another one behind me. They just trotted along, pushing me gently while I started to pedal. And at about 3 or 4 miles an hour, more or less what we're doing now, I called out, "Let go." And I thought they hadn't let go because I didn't fall off, I just kept going. And I looked behind to see where they were, and the instructors were 3 or 4 yards behind me then. And I realised that I was actually balancing and pedalling on 2 wheels, which I'd never thought I'd be able to do again. And it was the most wonderful moment in my life, I think, to realise that I could still ride a bike.
I imagine for the more rebellious cyclists, female cyclists, this has been very much what they would have worn around 1910. Some of them might have had split skirts, which basically just had a panel across the front for modesty. But certainly your really keen cyclists would have worn bloomers, not unlike these. It was commonly thought that cycling was encouraging women to behave badly. I suppose that's where it came from, was the fact that actually when women started to cycle, they realised that corsets were getting in the way, and you know, they wanted to just get rid of them. And I think cycling can claim a small piece of credit for the changing fashions and corsets becoming less and less popular.
When my kid got his first bike, I decided I wasn't going to be left behind. And the first thing I looked at was granny scooters, you know, electric scooters. But to go around the parks and on rugged terrain, etc., they're not brilliant. And then I came across a system like this. And I thought, oh my God, I'll try that. As soon as I tried it, I just couldn't believe the feeling that I got from being able to go at speed without any pain. This is just pure pleasure. And it does things to my heart which nothing else does. It really keeps it pumping. It gives it an effort, an opportunity to, you know, to work hard without the rest of my body falling apart. When I'm at the wheels of my wheelchair, the relationship that I have with strangers out there is that of, I mean, at best, people sort of acknowledge you and move on and try not to look like they're feeling sorry for you. Same person at the hands of my hand cycle, and people look at me in awe. And kids go, oh wow, Mum, I want one of them. They've never said that about my wheelchair. People are not just seeing me go by, they're actually acknowledging me, they're talking to me, they want to know what this is, and they're not talking to me about what my body doesn't do, they're talking about how cool my bike is. Fantastic. So it's priceless, really.
My parents' generation rode bikes a lot. My mum went to Hereford High School in the countryside, and she rode 10 miles each way to school on an old kind of bone shaker bike. There's a kind of a missing generation somewhere. The next generation down from me didn't really ride bikes, and their children don't ride bikes, and now you've got kids whose parents can't mend their punctures. So they get bikes from catalogues, and nobody can fix them, and then they go in the shed and that's it. They don't see daylight until somebody decides to throw them away. And those are the sort of bikes we're getting donated into our recycle project. We collect our bikes from the police, and they're in various states of, dismemberment, and then we get young people in, and over 4 to 6 weeks or so they build themselves a bike. And at the end of that, they get the bike to take home with them.
Can you feel that? Yeah. More. Now it's changed to gear 2, okay? And you can twist it back again a little bit further.
Now, Devil, who knows what a devil is? Must be worried about it. It's an elimination race every time they come around. The last 2 riders in the bunch will be eliminated.